Hello, friends of ARC. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us for our fourth episode of the ARC series. My name is Aaliyah Carlos, and I'm one of the co-founders of ARC.
My name is Christine Lee, and I'm the co-founders of ARC. And in this series, we'll be joined by special guests, Asian Canadians who have believed our amazing aspirations in our communities. In each episode, we'll be highlighting an Asian cuisine that we have discovered to our guests from local Asian restaurants. Our hope is that in these sessions, we get to engage in a fun conversation about our Asian Canadian experiences over food, because what better way to capture our cultures and cultivate meaningful relationships.
And today we are very excited to have a very special guest joining us. Please give it up for MPP of Parkdale-High Park, BHUTILA KARPOCHE.
Hi, I'm so excited to join you. Thank you so much for having me. And hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. So BHUTILA is a member of the Provincial Parliament of Parkdale-High Park. In June 2018, BHUTILA made history by becoming the first person of Tibetan heritage to be elected to public office in North America. An epidemiologist by training, BHUTILA is a public health researcher focusing on the social detriments of health. Most recently, she co-authored the report Immigrant Women. Did I say that right? I'm not sure if I said that right. BHUTILA has tabled Bill 82, Day of Remembrance and Action Against Anti-Asian Racism Act, which seeks to proclaim that on May 10th of each year, that will be the Day of Remembrance and Action Against Anti-Asian Racism. And in 2019, BHUTILA was voted Toronto's best local politician by Toronto Star readers and named one of Toronto's most inspirational women. As well in 2019, and for 2 consecutive years, she was also named Toronto's best MPP by Now magazine by readers, and is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal. Thank you so much. We're so honored to have you here, really.
Thank you. I'm excited. And thank you for all you do. ARC, I follow you and your work, and it's really amazing to see Asian youth in particular, really take up space and talk about important issues for our community.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Let's jump into what we got today, because part of this series is really highlighting local Asian restaurants and local Asian food. So why don't you go first, BHUTILA?
Okay, all right. So I got Vietnamese food, specifically Vietnamese street food. And it's from a local restaurant. They're called Tam. And they're actually a fairly new restaurant that opened up just before the pandemic. During the pandemic, rather. And it's right around the corner from my office. I haven't had a chance to try it. So today was a perfect reason. And I don't know if you can see. Yeah, so that's them. And I need to remove my background to make the objects much more visible. But yeah, it's really cute place, fairly new. And I've always been such a fan of, I'm a fan of food generally, but definitely of Vietnamese food as well. And so this one here, sorry, let me just make sure. There we go. Okay, you're going to be able to see much better from now on. Okay, so this is the classic banh mi.
Yum. Oh my gosh.
I've got a bunch of stuff, so this is my first. What's not to love about a banh mi, right? Really great baguette with just amazing, combination of vegetables, and this specific one has chicken. So, and I like mine spicy. I love spicy food. It's actually in my bio for all my social accounts.
Yes.
But yeah, so this is my first item.
Okay, delicious. You can go ahead and show the rest too, just so we can
okay.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so I'm gonna have to apologize now because I don't know the correct pronunciation of the Vietnamese name of the food. But I have here, we'll open it up now. The classic again, pho. And because I got takeout, the soup is separate, so I'm gonna mix it up and put it in here. And again, really, really, really love pho, especially for the winter. Oh, the soup, especially with
Nothing
the
like that, bro.
yeah, it's so amazing. And another classic, it's all the classics. The rolls.
Oh my gosh, love. And
Yeah.
what sauce came with it? Is it a peanut sauce or did you get is it like a vinegar sauce?
You know what? I don't know. Okay, so this is like a sesame sauce.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah, it's good. I'm excited. And then finally, I got some iced tea.
Yes, yum. Okay, delicious, exciting. For myself, I got from a Vietnamese Asian restaurant called Pho 88. I'm pretty sure it's more located in the city. I'm Midtown, and oh my gosh, I also got a lot because Vietnamese food is also one of my favorites. So you can't really, for some reason, you can't really see the soup. But I also got pho with tofu. There's soup in there. I just can't see it. And I also got these noodles with vegetables, deep fried tofu, spring rolls with vegetables. Oh my God, it smells so amazing. And a classic avocado milkshake. So very excited. And Christine, tell me what you're eating today, your homemade.
Well, since today we're celebrating Lunar New Year, like my parents have to do this whole traditional thing by like greeting like the ancestors and like the family. Well, obviously we can't have family around because of COVID, but we're just today having the traditional tofu and rice and some vegetables. The tofu, you can get it at Mama's Tofu. It's located on Lawrence Avenue West. They have like the best tofu. So I highly recommend if you're ever like uptown in North York to come and visit.
Oh, thank you so much. I love tofu, so I will visit. So now that we've shared our food, we're going to go into the question period. And in this period, we'll be going back and forth, asking Bhutila questions, eating. And yeah, Christine, why don't you take it away?
So Bhutila, what are your some favorite local go-to food spots, especially with comfort food?
Oh, okay. So, well, as is just mentioned in my bio, my background, my heritage is Tibetan. So of course, I love momos. I love momos, all kinds of momos, whether it's fried, pan fried, steamed, in soup on its own, mixed with, different flavors. And so, and also because I'm actually a terrible cook. So I have to, basically, if I want to eat Tibetan food, especially, and if I can make it to my parents' place or have somebody from family make it for me, then I have to rely on a lot of different, thankfully, so many restaurants in Parkdale-High Park, particularly in the neighborhood of Parkdale, unofficially known as Little Tibet. So I love having chapalé, for example, from Zampa. I love Lotus Momo. I love Tiny Cafe Momo. I love Himalayan Kitchen Momo. Oh my gosh, momos are like the perfect meal and a perfect snack. It's so easy to eat, and because it comes in so many different it's made so many different ways and so many different ingredients. It just like fits you. You can eat momos like every day. So yeah, that's really my main comfort food.
That's your go-to?
Yeah.
I've had momos once. And the reason why I've never heard of momos, like up until last year, I was like, what are they? Like they kind of look like dumplings, but I was craving dumplings but the dumpling places around me didn't have like vegetarian options. But it's very easy to find vegetarian momo. So I was like, oh my God. So I tried it and I was blown away because it has a very unique, like it's different from dumplings.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
So many Asian cultures have, dumplings as part of our cuisine. And Tibetans, we have our momos. And I think pretty much every culture has it slightly differently, right? Like they make it slightly differently. So yeah. And I have to tell you, I always recommend momos to everybody. And people always tell me that they love it. I think, oh, there we go.
I should have, at the beginning of this recording, I should have mentioned my internet has been very unstable. And I told Christine, if I cut out, just pretend, I'm just like coming in and out, it's fine. What's it called? On comfort food, similar to you, my heritage, my culture is Filipino. And my comfort food is my dad's homemade Filipino food. So all the soups, all the stews, sinigang, puchero, caldereta. And the thing is, I can cook, but I can't cook. I don't know if it's because he has many years on him, probably, and he's been for a long time, but I just can't quite get Filipino food, oddly. I cook mostly, as of late, a lot of Korean food at home. Chinese food I try to get into, Japanese food I try to get into, but I can't do Filipino for some reason. I don't know what it is. But my go-to has always been my dad's homemade Filipino food or local Thai, from my favorite restaurant, Bolan, or Viet. Like it's like those three are my favorite. How about you, Christina? What is your comfort food?
I think hands down, like it has to be just Vietnamese food because like it has a combination of like everything, like to keep you like just full for the whole entire day. And I can't be biased because my mom makes good foods. Yeah.
I'm sure her food is delicious. I still haven't tried it. We need to change that. Okay, so I'll move on to question number 2. What are a couple of items on your bucket list? You don't have to share it all. It might be personal, but a few that you want to share.
Right. I think, the bucket list definitely changes with age. Some things that maybe were on my list when I was younger, I feel like, it's not really on my bucket list anymore. Just because, especially after becoming a parent, it doesn't feel as exciting or, entertaining. But one thing that's always been on my bucket list, something I really wanted to do, especially I realized that after coming to Canada and after my family settling here, that how badly I wanted to do it, and which is I want to visit the base camp of Mount Everest. I grew up in Nepal. Everest was pretty much our backyard, not literally, but you see the Himalayas, the mountains are so part of your life, like they're always around you. And like many things, unless you move away, you don't quite realize how lucky you were, to have that experience, to always be surrounded by beautiful mountains and just feel that presence. And so I've never been near Everest. And for me, I feel like as well, by going to Everest, not to scale the mountain, but by hiking, even, to get to base camp, you have to go on days of hiking, right? I'm going to be able to see parts of Nepal that I never got to see, explore the country that I was born in a bit more and meet the locals of those villages on the path there. And I feel like I have this feeling that when I am at the base of the base camp of Mount Everest, it's just going to be so overwhelming, right? Like the size of Everest, the largest, highest mountain in the world. But also it will be, I think, a really humbling experience. And you're just in this presence of sheer, I don't know, size and magnificence of nature. So anyways, that's something I've always dreamed of doing. I wish I had done it when I actually was in Nepal, but of course, little did I know, you know, the events that would unfold in my life. But now it's definitely on my bucket list.
Oh, that's a beautiful item to have on your bucket list. I mean, as you were describing it, it was like almost impossible to not imagine that whole journey, what it would be like. And as you mentioned in the beginning, like, you know, your bucket list can change throughout time, but that sounds like something that like you could do with your family even. Actually, I don't know how crazy the trek is.
Maybe not for kids, but yeah.
But yeah, like you could do it like later on. And but I have not had the privilege of going there either. So that, now that you talk about it, that sounds like something everyone should have on their bucket list. For myself, I actually haven't thought about this question in a long time. And then like, as you said, like I would have a bucket list maybe when I was a teenager, and I would think, you know, I want to road trip somewhere, or I want to, you know, those types of things. Like I want to go skydiving.
Oh yeah.
And then once you reach a certain age, I guess like the reality of like mortality hits in, and you're just like, I don't know if I want to do that, because like I don't know, like what are the statistics of dying? And when you're young, it's like, oh, it's fine, just do it, just jump. But I think now my bucket list revolves around things I want to achieve. So like, you know, I want to finish my master's degree. I want to maybe do a PhD if I get in now, or if not, maybe I'll apply later on. And I want to, you know, be like you. I want to do something crazy and be the, you know, and be a representation for a community that's historically not been so represented, and just do great things and, you know, leave a great legacy. I think that as I get older, at least for myself, that's become more of what my bucket list has evolved into. How about you, Christine? What do you have a bucket list?
You know, I kind of agree with you both. It's great to have a balance with like getting into nature and just understanding who you are as a person, because I feel like we're just so stuck in the notion of like trying to better ourselves, but like also we have to look back on like what is happening within our communities and why it's so important just to help out and just to like give back, you know, from time to time.
Yeah.
So I guess the question leading to that is, what inspired you to get involved in STEM, politics, and advocacy?
That's such a big question. Well, okay. So STEM, politics, and advocacy. All right. Let's start with STEM. And really, it was, you know, it's not really that I picked STEM or like, you know, the sciences to get into. I just found as I went through school that I really enjoyed sciences. And, you know, it came to me fairly easily. So it was a path that I just sort of continued to do. And I've always found it really interesting and fascinating, right? From how things work to, you know, what exists and why. Like everything about science is just so fascinating. And it's just really, you know, you're on the hook, I guess. You know, you just kind of keep digging, and the more you dig, you realize how much less you know. You know what I mean? And so I found myself just taking that path. And it actually was a really good fit because I've always been interested in the health of people and communities. And so the sciences gave me that background to pursue public health. And so I pursued public health, and that combined with my sort of experience and my activism pretty much positioned me to venture into electoral politics. But in terms of my actual sort of involvement in politics, I always say, and I don't know if this is necessarily true for everyone, but I feel like as a Tibetan, especially as a Tibetan who is born in what we call exile outside of the land of our ancestors and our homeland, you're born a Tibetan means you're born into a life of politics. Politics is part of your destiny because politics is personal, right? We hear the frame, the personal is political. But for Tibetans, especially for Tibetans my generation and younger, the reason we are even born in any place outside of Tibet, the reason why our families are in places outside of our homeland, the reason why we are disconnected from our ancestors and are not disconnected from our ancestors in the sense that we're not so connected, but like the land is so important to sort of who we are and our language, the fact that there are no, our histories have to be taught through stories from our grandparents. Our language has to be taught at home. It's not like necessarily something easy to be able to access in a formal education setting, right? Things like that. It's just because of the fact that we are Tibetans, we're born stateless, we're born in exile. So the politics is pretty much in you the moment you're born. And so I'm no different as a Tibetan. And I've always had that political consciousness since I was very, very young.
That's amazing. It's interesting that you say that because, when you think about the diaspora across different cultures, and, being Asian and in Canada and all the different varieties of Asian individuals, it's interesting to see how similar we all are, but also how different we are. Because, as you said, were you encouraged to cultivate your relationship with politics and to go, to run? Like, were you encouraged by your family, or was it something that was like, don't do that? Like, it's Filipinos, for example, politics is like, it has the stigma of being like dirty or being corrupt, because we come from a country where a lot of our politics is corrupt and people don't trust their government. So were you encouraged? Is that encouraged in Tibetan culture?
Well, I can tell you that since I was very young, I've always been sort of very independent, I've always done things and explored things that I've wanted to do. And maybe because it's always been my personality, my parents.
You're a natural rebel.
Yeah, so my parents never discouraged, for sure. But when I was seriously thinking about it and I was reflecting on it, I did have conversations with my partner, with my parents, of course, and my family, because I have a big family, my siblings. And I think that because of our own experience with politics, they understand why it's important to get involved in politics. But obviously, as their sister, as their child, as their partner, there is a little bit of worry in terms of what my experience will be like, especially as a young Asian woman in politics, where we don't necessarily have too many role models or others as examples to look at, right? And of course, knowing that generally the life of politics, and especially as an elected representative, is a hard one. It may not look very hard on the outside, but it's actually really, it's a lot of hard work. You have to have thick skin. You have to have courage. You have to be bold in, if you truly want to make a difference and, go out there and do something. And so my parents obviously and my family were supportive of whatever decision I made. But they did ask me, if I was really sure or not, if there was any hesitation. But once I told them that, for me personally, I think this is what I want to do next, then they were 100% behind me. And even though previously they hadn't been involved in electoral politics in Canada, they really just jumped in, from like putting up signs to going door knocking to cooking food for volunteers. They were so involved, and it was really nice to see that. And I felt so much love and support from everybody, really.
Oh, that's so great to hear. It's great to hear when, also like being a Filipino and being Asian Canadian, a lot of our mothers and a lot of our families are traditionally quite conservative and not wanting to be in the spotlight, and like very just family oriented. So to hear stories of people that ran, of people that are doing something against the grain, something where there isn't a lot of representation, to see and hear where families stepping out of their comfort zone, it becomes like a whole community thing, the whole family. It's so powerful and it's beautiful to see, but it's for younger Asian Canadians to see that, it's like, that's possible. You did it, and you're breaking all these barriers for future young Asian Canadian women like myself and like Christine and the other co-founders to look up to you and be like, if she did it, like you really did the hard work. So it's like, it's not like we're coming through being like, we're gonna change this. It's, you've done it. So I think it's so important to tell you that as you said, it's hard work, but people like me and like Christine watch you, and we see like, this is crazy stuff. This is amazing. So thank you. And thank you to your family. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to hear that, because at least I feel like, the work that I'm doing, the purpose of all of this is to make impact, right? And to get this kind of feedback that you're sharing, it makes me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing something. So thank you so much.
No problem. I mean, oh my God, I can't believe I can say that to you. That kind of leads into the next question. Go ahead and have your, please. I've been seeing that you've been have your bite. It's almost torturous to have the food in front of you and not be able to eat it. Yeah, so the next question kind of leads into that a little bit, because we don't get to see what happens behind the scenes, right? We see you here, you're all put together, you're just ready, right? What does your everyday life look like, I guess, behind the scenes, what we don't see when you're not in press conferences, or you know what I mean? So yeah, what does that look like exactly?
I think one of the nice things about this job is that every day looks so different. Generally, you can kind of divide it into life when the House is in session versus when it's not. When it is in session, of course, what is happening in the legislature dominates our schedule. So we're in the House, we're participating in debates, we're holding the government. I'm in the opposition party, so we're holding the government accountable. We're advocating for our constituents, bringing the issues that are important to our community to the floor, pushing for action, things like that, right? It's very much focused on what's happening basically inside this building, Queen's Park, in the House. And during even when the House is in session, I mean, like, we're constantly in meetings. It's the number of meetings, I think all elected representatives participate in is just, I mean, the sheer volume of it. Unfortunately, we don't have time to meet with everybody. And so we'll have to learn how to prioritize, to basically figure out what's urgent, the issues that you're working on, the needs of the community. And so I spend a lot of time in meetings, on the phone, in the evenings and weekends. I mean, it's changed a little bit because of the pandemic, but like, for example, outside of the pandemic, in a normal, scenario, I'd attend tons of local community meetings in the riding. I would attend lots and lots of events, anything from, judging a dog Halloween costume contest to, protesting for rights and, rallying on the street to prevent evictions of tenants. I mean, it's just such a range. But everything you do, or everything I did and continue to do, is very much focused on my riding, my community, of course, where the larger issues, whether it's health, education, climate, they're all connected, but very, very much focused on ensuring that what is important to us locally is elevated, and what is happening on the policy level, on a more macro level, is communicated and engaged with our local residents. So yeah, it's so different. I can't even describe what a day is like. I mean, look at me now, eating food with you, the two of you, right? Like, it's, yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, as long as whatever it is that you do is sort of guided towards ensuring that at the provincial level, because I'm a provincial representative, the issues that are brought to the forefront, that are a priority and we need action on behalf of the residents and the communities in Parkdale-High Park, is, that I'm doing the best job I can to represent and fight for our community.
Wow, that sounds so all-encompassing, like physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, you're eating now because it's part of our episode, but like, I can imagine that you're constantly on the go. Like,
yeah, her camera just freezes sometimes, but honestly, like, yeah, I just, coming from understanding your perspective, like, I understand how it's like to work, like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. Like, understand, like, being a politician is like so like rigorous. Like, you always have to be on your toes for things.
Oh my gosh, so
But, yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaliyah.
sorry. I was just imagining you always on the run, and because you're so known in your community, I remember hearing when representatives came to speak to us delegates through Daughters of the Vote, hosted by Equal Voice. A lot of them said, and I'm going to ask you, did you feel like when you go do you even go grocery shopping? Can you do that? I don't know, like, people bombarding you, like asking you, like, why hasn't this changed? Like, because you are kind of like, you're like celebrities in your areas and you do bring about change. You are the voice. So do you ever feel like you get hassled in your community?
Oh, I definitely go grocery shopping, especially with 2 kids, and basically running the household. Yes, that is my job as a mom. No, really, I mean, people do definitely stop to talk to me, no matter where I am, and sometimes people stop and talk to me, and it has happened before, like when I'm in a different place, where I think that, maybe nobody might recognize me here, or a place like that. But I think that it's actually really, like, if it's conversations, are there people want to bring something to my attention? They happen to see me and they're like, oh, Priscilla's right there. Let me go and tell her this. Sometimes people might not have a specific issue that they want to talk about, that maybe my office can be of help. Maybe they just want to bring it, something to my attention in terms of like what happened in the community, or they might want to share thoughts about what is happening in provincial politics and how they feel about it, right? And really, I appreciate that so much, because as an elected representative, and especially when the House is in session, it's so easy to get lost in this bubble, right? And and if you're not careful, you can be sort of confined to some sort of echo chamber where you're just hearing from, certain groups or certain people. And the dangerous part is that you're only hearing from people who agree with you, and maybe some people who might disagree with you are not part of that. So any opportunity that I get where I can talk to as many people as possible, of course, especially with my constituents, so that I can actually fully understand and like really deeply understand what is happening on the ground, and how policies or a lack of certain policies are impacting people's daily lives, and what kind of and how it can be fixed. I mean, like oftentimes we think of like more sort of systemic stuff, but it might feel like you don't know what to do to address it, like what specific action to do, right? And the, great ideas, great suggestions always come from people. And because they, people live it, so we know what needs to be fixed. So I definitely appreciate those conversations. I don't mind being stopped for a chat. Sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes it can take a little too long and I'm a bit in a rush.
Oh God.
Someplace or you get back. But I want to also take this opportunity, because I don't want to sugarcoat things, is that in the recent years, and particularly during the pandemic, just because, I feel like it's because everybody's so overwhelmed by what is going on, and everyone has so much stresses, and we've seen inequities rise, we've seen huge fights, and like polarization, much more so than previously, that sometimes I do feel a little bit scared, because there have been incidents, not just to me, but to many of my colleagues, where somebody is approaching you not with the right intentions, or not even just to have a chat or anything like that. It's just to yell at you in public, and like say mean things, and like walk off, whatever. So because of that, and increasingly so more recently, I do feel a little bit scared. But thankfully, it's more on the rare side. I mean, most people are really nice, and even if we disagree, we can actually talk about it.
Wow. Wow, thank you for sharing that. That was great insight into your life and outside of politics even. So
Yeah.
actually politics is like all encompassing in your life in many ways. That leads to the next question that Christine has for you. It's kind of related.
Yeah, so initially, like with RCC, like how like the purpose of our organization is to represent Asian Canadians, and with this question, it kind of ties towards that actually. So, what does your Bill 82 Day of Remembrance and Actions Against Anti-Asian Racism Act mean to you as a representative of the Asian Canadian community?
No, absolutely. And thanks so much for asking that question. As I was just saying, like this pandemic has really highlighted so many issues, and of course, discrimination and hate crimes that target Asian people are not new, but it did reach new heights during the pandemic. And, you know, anti-Asian racism is not one of those things that gets named and called out. It's unfortunately largely been ignored. And so, you know, for me as an elected representative, and particularly as an immigrant Asian woman, I felt very strongly, and luckily having a platform to be able to do something, I wanted to push the Ontario government to really, you know, address not just this rising tide of anti-Asian racism, but you know, even like the roots of anti-Asian racism in our community, because you know, Asian communities and people, everybody needs a safe place. You know, people need to be able to not only feel safe, but to feel supported and feel respected. And so I thought that for us at the provincial level, one very easy, simple thing that can be done is to recognize the existence and the rise of anti-Asian racism, and then to commit to action. So this bill that I tabled really is taking that step. And yeah, so if we, the bill proposes to make May 10th as a day of remembrance and a day of action as well. So then we're not only able to talk about sort of what's happening now, but historically, you know, in Canada, in Ontario, how has anti-Asian racism, you know, reared its head? How is it built into our policies? How is it that, and you know, and what is our history on anti-Asian racism, right? So really trying to bring this issue much more attention than it has now, and getting that recognition from government, not just to remember, but to commit to action. Sorry,
Yeah.
I went around a bit long, but yeah.
Oh no, that's great. And I think, yes, if it starts with someone like you, and if it starts at the provincial level, it you know, sets an example to other provinces and, you know, to the whole nation that it is important to acknowledge and recognize the Asian Canadian lived experiences historically, and that still happen today. I remember seeing in the news not too long ago that there are some states in the US that are incorporating like Asian history into you know, some of their classes. And I never thought, funnily enough, I never thought about how important that is. Because I remember even growing up, and I grew up in Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto. I remember telling people like, you know, I'm Filipino, I'm from the Philippines, I was born there. And then people would be like, where's that? Like, what is that? Like, I think now it's changing a lot, obviously, but obviously when you're talking to young people in school, like that's where a lot of like these first, you know, relationships are cultivated at a young age, and understanding different cultures. So incorporating that even into the school system, I think could be an amazing first step to not just for Asians, but for all cultures. I had a friend that was from Turkey, and when I first met her, I was like, Turkey? Like, where is that? I mean, we haven't dove into geography class yet because we're so young, but it's a celebration of culture and all that, acknowledging, you know, the roles that, for example, Asians played in building, creating Canada what it is today. It's so important because actually a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I think, you know, the point you made is so important, that it all starts with education, right? Like young people especially have to grow up learning true history of our country.
Yes, the true history.
And you know, and not, it's, you know, with the understanding that by learning about it, you know, you acknowledge it, but also you move forward in a way where you will prevent something like that from happening again. with the understanding of how our history very much informs the way things are today, and there are so many injustices that still have to be addressed and corrected. I mean, when I think about it, we talk about the railroad workers, as you were referring to, like, people who literally with their hands built this country, or contributed to building it. But at the same time, there was a Chinese head tax. There, immigration of quote unquote the yellow man was not allowed, basically. And we see how that, even though it's not so explicit now, but the racialization of all of our policies, including now when we talk about our immigration policies, and we look at programs like the family reunification, it's very much modeled after a more sort of neoliberal, I'm getting too policy now, like nuclear family, the understanding of who constitutes as a family is such a narrow neoliberal perspective, like in many communities, including in Asian communities, our parents, our grandparents, even aunts and uncles are very much part of our core family. It's not just dad, mom, children, or that, parent one, parent two, and children. It's not like that, and family reunification programs and our immigration policies are trying very much to fit us into certain categories or boxes, and discourages sponsorship of grandparents, for example, right? Like there's so many things that are problematic, but it is very much remnants of discrimination from the past that exists now in a different form.
And just to quickly comment on that totally speaks to me. Like Filipino households, like many other Asian cultures, is multi-generational in the house. Like I grew up with my grandmother, and lots of Filipinos do that, lots of other Asian cultures do that. It's not uncommon. So it's so important to have voices like yourself who are coming from other perspectives in the house, because you are able to bring that lived experience to the table. And on that note, my last question to you is, what advice or tips would you give someone who is interested in running?
I would just say go for it. Do it. Mainly because, wait a second, did your question say specifically young Asian women or just generally?
Anyone running, but as Asian Canadian woman, I feel like it would be really helpful to hear your perspective on that for us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, my advice generally would be do it for sure. But I think especially if you are a person that belongs to a group that is not well represented in any level of government, and we know that while we have made some sort of strides forward when it has come to representation, we're not there yet. The makeup of our legislature, our parliament, our councils does not reflect the population, does not reflect even the communities we serve, right? I remember, was it last city election? Like there were more Michaels on city council than actual like diverse people. I think there's just one, that's Christian Wong Tam, racialized person, racialized woman, sorry. Yeah, and basically the point I'm trying to make is that we have a long way to go. And no one is going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to step aside for you to run. It's unfortunately that doesn't happen. So we really have to fight to create that space for ourselves, and make sure that we do our best. to be able to be in positions where we're able to bring perspectives and experience, and in that way able to shape policy and make an impact. So really, I would say do it. I being very on a practical front, especially having been part of many campaigns. I've volunteered in many campaigns before I ran for office, is that find a good team of people, like people who love you, who support you, who know you, who sort of know why you're running. If you have a good team, I mean, this is really truly a team effort. Like, no one can do it individually. But once you have a team, your team can work with you, and your team can help that base grow, right? But it always starts with people who know you the best, who know why you're running and believe in you. So having that team is so important. And I would say find that team as soon as you can, once you've decided to run, and then just run as fast as you can to get to your destination.
Thank you so much. That is great advice. And it's almost like life advice, right? It's like, if there's something you really truly want to do and you believe in it, you should go for it. But it's also so important to surround yourself around people who will pick you up when you're feeling discouraged and who will keep cheering you on. So that advice, I think, is amazing because it's applicable to all things in life. So thank you so much for that. In closing, how we like to end off is we like to kind of rate our food. I know I don't know how much you were able to eat, but from what you tried,
I only got 2 bites, maybe.
Yeah. Is it good? Is it good? Would you recommend?
It is delicious. And remember how I mentioned earlier, the soup, I had it separately.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see it now, but this is the spicy version. Of course, I asked to make mine spicy. It's really, really good. And what are we rating it out of?
5. You could rate it out of 5.
I would say 4.5 out of 5.
Oh my god, I need to try that. Oh
Yeah,
my god, I'm glad.
I haven't had the other stuff, but I have a feeling it's going to be really good as well.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. This was my first time trying Pho 88 because it opened at a time that I can assure it'll be here. But I was blown away by that deep fried tofu. Like it's gone. I devoured it. It was so crispy. It's one of those dishes that it doesn't look like it's gonna pack like a lot of flavor, but oh my gosh, it does. Spring rolls were perfect, and the pho, the broth and noodles were delicious. So I'd give it a 5 out of 5. Actually, I would get it again. And lastly, Christine, I mean, it's your mom's homemade cooking.
I can't rate it. I'm sorry. It's so hard to eat it.
It's the best.
Yeah. Most moms make the best cooking, so you can't rate.
That's true. Or my dad. Yeah. Or my dad.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, Bhutila, I just wanted to thank you one last time for joining us today. This was such an honor. It means so much to us, and I'm sure it's going to mean so much to our viewers to kind of get an insight into your life. So thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you both so much. I really, really enjoyed chatting and, I guess sharing a meal online with the two of you. And just, I want to say thanks again to both of you as well. Like I said, I follow your work and I think you're doing amazing. So keep it up.
Thank you so much. We will be in touch maybe for round 2, and maybe we'll do actually we brought this up before, maybe we'll do like an ARC series spicy edition, and we'll all
yes, please, I want to be a part of that.
Okay, we'll keep in touch then. Thank you. Bye everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.